Let's talk about how to pronounce the Y and the double L in Spanish. So you may have heard different ways, different pronunciations. So let's clear this up. First, let's talk about the Y sound. Well, here are some words in Spanish. You hear yo, ayer, hoy, and then even just the word and is y. You can hear the way I'm pronouncing it. It's just basically like the same as the Y in English. Yo, ayer, hoy. Well, hoy, becomes, when it's at the end of the word, it's pronounced e, e. The same as when it's just a word all by itself, e. And now let's look at the double L before we get into the more controversial aspect of the Y and the double L sound. We have llama, pollo, calle. So the way I'm pronouncing it is like a Y. This is the way I recommend to my students because it's basically the middle of the ground pronunciation. Everybody basically understands this pronunciation and it's not too extreme. The problem is you're going to hear it many different ways and that can throw you off. And that's why I even recommend to my students to practice pronouncing it at least a few times, if not many times, in those other ways too, because if you pronounce it that way a few times, when you hear it, it won't be such a shock to your system. You'll hear it and you'll say, oh yeah, I said it that way a few times, so now I understand it. So let's talk about those ways. So in Spain, they do it kind of like the sound that we produce when we say million, million, where the L and the Y come together. That's kind of the way they pronounce the double L in Spanish. So those, not the Y, but the double L. So that's where you would hear like llama and pollo and calle. And not only in Spain, there are actually a few places. I've met people in Bogota, Colombia who pronounce it like this. Not many, very few, but there are a few who do it. I met people in Arequipa, Peru who pronounce it like this. And those are just some of the cities I've lived in. Okay, the other ways you might hear it, which are pretty common, and sometimes I even do it because I've lived around in places where they pronounce the L like this. It sounds more like a J sound in English to us. So you might hear like llama or pollo and calle. And also the Y sound would be the same. Like, so for I, they would say yo, yesterday, ayer, but not for the final Y. Hoy would still be hoy. So what's left? The Argentinian and Uruguayan pronunciation. And that is kind of like, sometimes it's like the sound in measure or treasure, or like sh, like an SH. So it's like an unvoiced SH or a voiced SH. And so you'll hear like yo, ayer, or ayer, but not at the end of a word. The oi is still oi, and e is still e, but the animal, or to call llama, pollo, calle, and I'll leave that to Argentinians to talk and Uruguayans to talk more about, but you can hear it all those different ways. I recommend doing it the middle of the ground way, just like a Y sound. That's for both of them. It seems to be it's easiest one for us to do. But I mean, I wouldn't just look for the easy way out. You know, I say a lot of times look for the harder way. But in this case, it's easy, but it's also understandable. It does not make your accent stand out. It doesn't make you sound different because there are Latinos who pronounce the Y like this, and the double L. There are plenty of them that pronounce the Y and the double L this way. And that's why I recommend it. If I were going to be living in Spain and always living there and always speaking with Spaniards, I would learn how to pronounce it the way they do, and I would pronounce it that way. If I were living in Argentina or Uruguay for a long time, for the rest of my life. I mean, not now, because I've been speaking Spanish for so long, I have my way to speak it. I could still try to improve my accent, definitely. I wouldn't purposely try to pronounce it the way they're pronouncing it now. But if I were new to Spanish and I were going to live in Uruguay or Argentina, I would pronounce it like them. Why not? I would do it the way the people around me were speaking, unless I knew that I was going to be traveling around to a lot of Latin American countries and I wanted to have a more neutral accent. I lived in Medellin for a while, and in Medellin, they pronounce, even in the name, Medellin has a double L in it. they say pollo and calle there, and yo, ayer. They pronounce their Y and their double L pretty strong there. And I guess it just varies. So let me know how you say it in your country if you're a Latino, but also if you're an English speaker, how have you learned to pronounce it and what's your experience with this pronunciation? If you have some difficult vocabulary or grammar that you're struggling with in Spanish, watch this next video that will help you to conquer those. And remember that millions of people speak Spanish fluently, and you will too.